Hey friends, hello and welcome to Learn with Lakshman. We'll talk about practical criticism today. Let's first of all try to understand what is the meaning of the word practical criticism. Practical criticism is a form of literary analysis which focuses exclusively on the text. It doesn't pay any attention to the questions like what is the intention of the author and in which historical context a particular poem is written. It is said that I.A. Richards began the tradition of practical criticism in England. His research publication entitled Practical Criticism, a Study of Literary Judgment, published in 1929, became a kind of handbook for the discipline of practical criticism. F. R. Lewis, who was also a student of I.A. Richards, popularized the method of close reading through his journal entitled Scrutiny. Today, we have plenty of literary theories, for example, feminism, Marxism, psychoanalytic criticism, and so on. Practical criticism has nothing to do with the theories like this. Practical criticism, in fact, is a very close reading of the text before you. It takes into consideration the length of the poem, the mood of the poem, the type of stanza patterns used in a poem, and the metrics involved in the lines of a poem. To analyze a poem by using practical criticism, we need to have knowledge of a few things. These things are extremely essential for understanding the poetry properly. Let us try to discuss each of these things in detail one by one. Types of poetry. Depending upon its structure and content, poetry is classified into several categories like epic, elegy, sonnet, ballad, ode, and so on. In this video, we'll try to understand the types of poetry. Ode is a lyric poem of moderate length. It is generally addressed to an object or a person. The object addressed is glorified deliberately in odes. It is written in an elevated style and in an elaborate stanza patterns. There are two types of odes called Pindaric odes and Horatian odes. The name Pindaric ode takes its origin from the master who used to write this kind of poems. The master after whom this poetry is named is Pindar. It is often described as the greatest lyrical poetry. Pindaric odes were meant to be performed with dancers and a chorus. It used to celebrate events like Olympics. Pindar loved to include mythological allusions in his writings. Pindaric odes consisted of three parts: strophe, antistrophe, and epode. Strophe and antistrophe has the same meter while epode has different meter. Look at this example. It is an example of Pindaric ode. It is titled as Ode to Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty in Greek mythology. William Wordsworth's poem Ode on Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood is also a good example of Pindaric ode. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth, and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light. The glory and the freshness of a dream, it is not now as it hath been yore. Turn wheresoever I may by night or day, the things which I have seen I now can see no more. The irregularity of the meter is one of the famous characteristics of Pindaric ode. Both Pindaric odes and Horatian odes are written in quatrains as the stanzas. They have 4-line stanzas. The subject of the Horatian odes were more personal in nature than the subjects of Pindaric odes, whose subjects were usually a celebration of gods or events. Now let's try to understand the Horatian ode. The Horatian ode was named after the Roman poet Horace. These odes were usually more thoughtful than Pindaric ode. They were meant for personal enjoyment than a stage performance. Their subjects tend to be simple, reflecting on nature, people, or abstract concepts. A Horatian ode usually has a regular stanza pattern. Remember, it was commonly seen that a short fourth line was standard in Pindaric style. In a Horatian ode, the third line was often short, followed by a full fourth line. Now, let's try to understand elegy. Elegy, in simple terms, is defined as a mournful song. It is a lyric poem that expresses grief over the dead. Pastoral elegy mourns the death of someone very close to heart, assuming him and the poet to be shepherd. There is an elaborate description of natural scenes, assuming that nature is also participating in the mourning of the dead. The term elegy originates from Greek word elegia and elegos, meaning lament. Earlier, it was written in elegiac couplets. Each couplet consisted of a hexameter followed by a pentameter. It was a very popular form in Augustan age. Tibullus, Propertius, and Ovid have written several elegies. John Milton is also known for writing elegies. The most famous elegy in English is Elegy written in Country Churchyard, written by Thomas Gray. In modern times, the test for elegy is not its meter but its theme. Sonnet. The word sonnet comes from Italian word sonetto, meaning a little song. It is a 14-line poem and is generally written in iambic pentameter. There are two types of sonnets: Petrarchan or Italian sonnet and English or Shakespearean sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet originated in Italy. It is called Petrarchan sonnet because Italian poet Petrarch wrote this type of sonnets. Italian sonnet has an octave and a sestet. Octave rhymes ABBA, ABBA, and the sestet rhymes CD, CD, CD or CDE, CDE. There is a turn of thought or idea after octave in it. This turn is called volta. Milton's On His Blindness is an example of Petrarchan's sonnet. English sonnet. The sonnet was brought to England from Italy by Sir Thomas Watt. However, Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, established a new structure in England. This structure established by Earl of Surrey is known as English sonnet. William Shakespeare used the same form to write his sonnet sequence, which contains 154 sonnets. English sonnet has 3 quatrains and a concluding couplet. Its rhyme scheme is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG. English sonnet is also known as Shakespearean sonnet. It is known as Shakespearean sonnet not because Shakespeare has invented this form, but because Shakespeare has written 154 sonnets of this type. There is another variety of English sonnet which is known as Spenserian variety. These type of sonnets were written by Edmund Spenser. It contains 3 quatrains and a final couplet. Its rhyme scheme is AB, AB, BC, BC, CD, CD, and EE. The Ballad. According to Oxford Language Dictionary, ballad is a poem narrating a story in short stanzas. Traditionally, ballads are typically of unknown authorship, having been passed on orally from one generation to other. The origin of ballad is found in folk literature. It is one of the oldest forms in English. It is of the native growth. Originally, it was sung by a group of wandering singers. It was sung to the accompaniment of a harp or a fiddle. These singers earned a living with the help of their singing. Etymologically, the ballad means dancing song. In its earliest stages, the song must be accompanied by a crude tribal dance. The minstrel usually sang it in the chimney corner of the farmhouse or the village green to entertain a group of eager listeners. For example, Scott's Lady of Last Minstrel. Most of the ancient English ballads were collected in Bishop Percy's Relics of Ancient English Poetry, which was published in 1765. The ballad is a short story in verse. Its subjects are deeds rather than thoughts. Deeds can be simple, such as memorable feud, a thrilling adventure, a family disaster, love and war, and the life. The tale is usually fierce and tragic. It frequently introduces the supernaturals. There is a particular measure for the ballads. The poem is written in ballad measure, a quatrain in which the first and the third lines are 4 feet iambic and second and the fourth are 3 foot iambic. There can be variation in the syllables and line. Another important characteristic of a ballad is its abrupt opening. The tale opens abruptly without systematic introduction. Sometimes it begins with a question and answer. For example, "Oh, where have you been, my long lost love?" Treatment in the ballad is always impersonal. There is no deliberate attempt to make it personal. It's very much like telling a story itself. Sometimes epic may have the personal touches, but ballad doesn't have such personal touches in it. In the ballad, same lines are often repeated from stanza to stanza as a refrain. The stock phrases are freely used. There is no deliberate attempt to give the details of the time and place of the story. It can be ignored in the interest of the story. Kinds of ballad. Basically, there are two types of ballad: the ballad of growth and the ballad of art. There is one more category of the ballad, and that is called mock ballad. The ballad of growth is also called authentic ballad. It has unknown authorship. This type of ballad has been existing for ages. Some of the examples of ballad of growth are Chevy Chase, The Wife and Usher's Well, and Sir Patrick Spence. The ballad of art is also called literary ballad. It is a development of the traditional form of ballad in literature. This is a conscious attempt at ballad. It is imitative in nature, for example, the Rime of Ancient Mariner written by S.D. Coleridge. There is also a minor form of literary ballad. It is called mock ballad. In mock ballad, comic theme is treated with the seriousness appropriate to a ballad. It follows ballad as a model very closely in everything except the subject matter. For example, Cooper's John Gilpin and William Magin's The Rime of Ancient Wagoner modeled on S.T. Coleridge's The Rime of Ancient Mariner. The Epic. The epic is a long narrative poem involving a lot of supernatural elements in it. It is written in grand style and its subject matter is sublime. There is no scope for trivialities in epic poetry. The epic is also known as the heroic poem because it deals with the heroic deeds of the characters. The epic poetry can be classified into two parts, namely traditional epic and literary epic. Traditional epic includes the epics of oral tradition. Some of the famous examples of traditional epics are Sumerian, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the ancient Indian Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Tamil Silapatikaram, the Persian epic Shahnama, the ancient Greek epics Odyssey and Iliad, Latin epic Aeneid, the Old English epic Beowulf, the German epic Nibelungenlied, and so on. Traditional epics are authentic epics and they are also called epics of growth. Literary epics are the epics that are deliberately written by someone based on the style of the traditional epic. The examples of literary epics in English are Milton's Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. The epic begins in medias. The setting is vast, covering many nations, the world, or the whole universe. The epic generally begins with an invocation to Muse. Begins with the statement of the theme. It includes use of epithets, contains long lists called the epic catalogue. It features long and formal speeches. It shows divine intervention in human affairs. Features the hero that embody the value of civilization. There is the third type of epic known as mock epic or mock heroic poem. This form was popularized by Alexander Pope. The famous example of mock heroic poem or mock epic is Pope's Rape of the Lock. It is an interesting and delightful poem written by Pope. There are plenty of details regarding types of poetry which cannot be covered in a video like this. So I request you to have some good reading about types of poetry. I hope this is a useful video and you have liked it. If liked it, then press the like button, share this video with your friends and subscribe for the channel if you are new to it. Thank you very much for watching.